And I noticed after, when he came off the pitch, one of the biggest hugs he got, and it was a long, kind of emotional hug, was with Gianpiero Ventroni, the fitness coach, which I always find is so kind of it's a strange paradox. He's a guy that works the players so hard. You know, I've seen him make Sonny collapse and almost be sick on the side of the pitch, you know, out in Korea when he was training him. Yet the players adore Ventroni. And there was this really nice moment where they were having a real embrace. It wasn't just a kind of a post-match hug. It was a real outpouring of emotion kind of hug. It was really, really nice. And I think it's interesting because I feel like Sonny will have felt he proved his point. But I think Conte will also feel he proved his point. Because what he's done, his whole idea behind rotation is that he's giving them kind of a rest, not only physically but mentally. And I think in Son's case, that was no bad thing at all, because obviously, you know, it starts to get into your head. You start to kind of psych yourself out, and he's had, you know, shots that have become own goals for opposition players. He's hit the woodwork a few times. He's had, you know, goals chalked out with VAR as well. And I think just taking him out of the forward line, giving him something else to focus on, and that's the anger of being taken out. And he wasn't dropped, any of that. He was rotated. It was his turn to have the rotation. And I think it was just very clever by Conte as well, because we were in the press box, we were saying that you could kind of see the way the game was stretched and open, and that Leicester were really pushing up quite high. It was made for Son. It was actually probably made for Vardy as well for Leicester, but for Son, for Spurs, it was there for him to counteract, especially bringing him on later in the game when Leicester would have tired slightly and had more gaps around. It was perfect. In terms of management, I think it was all very, very clever. And, you know, this is the thing. In a way, Sonny's 3 goals were actually showing the virtues of the rotation he clearly didn't want to be a part of. And no player wants to come out of the team. But Conte, as he stressed, and I've got some quotes coming up, he does it for their best interest, protecting them from injury risks. You know, they call it hitting the, what's it called? I can't remember, it's called the red zone. It's not like NFL red zone, but I think there's a moment where they can get into a red zone, they call it, in terms of injury, where they can play, but the chance of injury is higher, or pulling a muscle or something like that. So, yeah, it is good for him. He's... yeah, it was really interesting, Conte, afterwards. Look, I've always felt, and it's always the case, it's not just Tottenham, it's any club, you need a strong leader as your manager. You need someone that leaves no question marks over what they want and what is going to happen. And that man is Antonio Conte for Tottenham Hotspur. He really, really is. He's doesn't doubt himself. He has a very high opinion of himself, as the best in their fields do. And I just love the fact that he was asked whether it had been too easy in the past for Spurs, for players at Spurs, because they felt they were going to always be in the team. And honestly, his answer couldn't have been more emphatic. It was this. And this is the Conte way. Honestly, I don't care what happened in the past. I have my management, I have my own idea, and my story speaks very clear. In every situation I work in, I lift a trophy at the end. It means maybe my vision, my work, and my idea has to be given credit. I think he was trying to say there. Otherwise, I go with my idea. I go with my thoughts, my way to build something important. I think the club is really happy for what we are doing with the players, with the staff, and for sure, I don't want to compromise. I don't accept compromise off anybody. This has to be very clear. I go for my way, I go for my road, and this has to be very important, because I know I'm going to try to build something important for the future for the club that decided to work with me. It's either, it's Conte way, is get behind me or get out of my way, pretty much. And you can apply those sentiments whether you're talking to the players, to the club, the hierarchy, the fans. It's essentially just, you know, because some of the fans have been downing him. Of course they have. Again, should always stress, social media. Should caveat it. It's very different, I think, in the stadium to those on social media. So it's a very, very different audience. But I just found it fascinating. The terminology, the words he's saying. You know, he pretty much did everything but get his medals out and just chuck them on the table and just say, look at me. Don't doubt me. You know, he is. He's won everything. He's won everywhere he's gone to. You know, he might know what he's talking about. And I find it really fascinating, because I think the fans are going to really struggle with rotation. They are, because there's this weird kind of clash of thoughts in fans' heads. And to be fair, we're the same in media as well. When we talk about the game as well, we can be like this. In one aspect, the fans will call for a stronger squad. We want this player, we want that player in the transfer, we want like this. But then in the next breath, they're saying, no, you should always play your strongest team. Play your strongest team, kind of thing, in this game. I want to see this player play. I want to see this one. Whereas for someone like Conte, there's not only the rotation aspect, but the strongest team is the one that fits the team you're playing. You know, it's able to counteract some of the aspects of their play that's strong and also amplify your own strengths as well. And yeah, I find that really interesting. You know, it's a great kind of dilemma in the way we think, is that we want a strong squad, but we also want the strongest first 11 to always be out there. And if someone isn't playing, we moan about it. You know, as fans or as journalists, we'll say like, "Oh, why was he dropped?" kind of thing, and he'll say he wasn't dropped. It's rotation, and it's a whole different thing that we've kind of got to get into our heads, because he doesn't care what people on social media think. I know he's got an Instagram account. Whether he runs that or it's someone like a social media manager, I don't know. But do you think he even cares slightly what someone writes in a Twitter post about something he's done or something? Not a jot. This guy has been there, done it, and won it. And it's absolutely nothing. Nothing on social media, I think, can even faze him in the slightest. And he just wants to change the culture as well. This is a nice little thing he said when asked about how difficult. I think it was Tom Barkley from The Sun asked this about, you know, whether people maybe didn't understand how difficult it is to make a decision with someone like Son, because it could have gone a different way. You know, he could have only come on for a few minutes at the end, maybe didn't manage to get a goal in that time, and that lack of confidence going to go into international break and dragged on to North London Derby. It could have gone on longer. It made me, when he was talking about this, the way he was talking, it reminded me, there's this line that they use, I think, in a couple of the Terminator movies, maybe 3, if not 2, certainly. I think Arnold Schwarzenegger says it once, and Baine's character says it as well in the first one. Essentially, come with me if you want to live. Come with me if you want to live. And I just don't know. I just kind of, I was hearing this, I kind of tweaked it in my head, and I could just hear Conte saying, with his Italian accent, "Come with me if you want to win." That wasn't me doing an Italian accent, but it's essentially, I know what I'm doing. Trust me. Come with me if you want to win. And putting his hand out, and the players accepting it and coming with him, and I really hope they do, because Spurs have tried so many different ways. They've tried so many different kinds of coaches, and you've got a guy who is one of the best in the world. And I think certainly for the meantime, everyone's got to be all on board. And that means the players, I think those in power at the club have to trust what he's doing. It might be expensive, but I think they have to trust what he's doing. He's very much talking like a man at the start of a journey, which for Conte is, is not the way he's always been in his career. He certainly is talking about like a man who is who's looking to kind of create something special at this football club. And I think the fans kind of do have to be all on board as well. Look, I know it's difficult. I know we all lack patience, and I'm talking about as media as well as fans. It's not as easy as saying everyone has to be all on board, but I think Spurs aren't going to get much of a better chance of pushing in the right direction and one day achieving big things than they have right now with Antonio Conte. I genuinely do think he is